100 billion ringgit in 2022. Prime Minister Datuk Sri Anwar Ibrahim is scheduled to arrive in China today to attend the Boao Forum for Asia Annual Conference 2023, BFA 2023, and kickstart his 4-day official visit to the country. Datuk Sri Anwar is expected to arrive at the Boao International Airport in the evening, accompanied by Minister of Transport Anthony Loke and Minister of Local Government Development Nga Ko Ming. Upon arrival, the Premier will be greeted by, among others, Minister of Foreign Affairs Datuk Sri Dr. Zamri Abdul Kadir, Ambassador of Malaysia to China Raja Datuk Nusyirwan Zainal Abidin, and Consulate General of Malaysia to Guangzhou Suraya Ahmad Pauzi. He will then attend an iftar event with about 70 Malaysian delegations participating in the BFA 2023 at the Boao Golden Coast Hotel. The Premier is then scheduled to attend a joint meeting with the top leadership of China Communications Construction Company CCCC, the contractor of Malaysia's mega rail project East Coast Rail Link ECRL. On Thursday, Datuk Sri Anwar is scheduled to deliver his speech at the BFA 2023, which is also attended by Chinese Premier of the State Council, Li Qiang. He will then depart Hainan for Beijing on Thursday to continue his visit to the Great Wall country. The Premier's official visit to China is his 9th international visit after being sworn in as the 10th Prime Minister last November. Science, Technology and Innovation Minister Chang Lee Kang, who will join Prime Minister Datuk Sri Anwar Ibrahim's visit to China, meanwhile hopes to meet with his counterpart there to discuss issues related to science, technology and innovation, as well as explore investment opportunities. He said the discussion topics included developments in the field of electric vehicles, space technology and investment by technology-related companies. The minister expressed hope that the visit will result in cooperation to upgrade investments in technology and added that, in fact, many Chinese investors are keen to invest in Malaysia, but at different levels, with some at the beginning and some at the final stages. Elaborating further on the matter, Chang said discussions with the Chinese tech companies will also involve the Ministry of International Trade and Industry (MITI), particularly the Malaysian Industrial Development Authority (MIDA). Even though the visit is not Malaysia's trade mission, he said the ministry would capitalise on the opportunity to discuss further with his counterpart and the Republic's tech-related companies that are interested to invest in Malaysia. The Transport Ministry MOT has no plans to raise the payment rate for the Vehicle Entry Permits VEP imposed on Singapore-registered vehicles to this country. Its Minister Anthony Loke Siu Fok said the current VEP payment of 20 ringgit will be retained. Commenting further on the matter, Loke said raising the VEP will cause the Singapore government to impose a higher payment on Malaysian vehicles entering the Republic.
Jadi kita kena lihat timbal balik itu. Yang pertamanya, kita juga nak menggalakkan kemasukan pelancong-pelancong daripada Singapura untuk masuk ke Johor untuk juga menyumbang kepada ekonomi di Johor Bahru.
He was commenting on Kota Iskandar Assemblyman Datuk Panda Ahmad's suggestion to the government to raise the VEP specifically for Singapore-registered vehicles entering the country through Johor on 21st March. Datuk Panda was reported to have said that raising the VEP rate should be considered as it will still low compared to the exchange rate with Singapore. The Home Ministry KDN is open and ready to provide full cooperation to the Malaysian Anti-Corruption Commission to investigate corruption cases involving all its enforcement agencies. Its Minister Datuk Sri Saifuddin Nasution Ismail said the commitment is given in line with the commitment of the government to eradicate graft from the top to the lowest level. The minister also urged members of the public with evidence of any corruption occurring in all government agencies and departments under KDN to immediately lodge a report with MACC. In regards to that, the minister said respecting and recognising the roles of enforcement agencies such as MACC will remain his position as long as he leads KDN. Datuk Sri Saifuddin added that if anyone has evidence of corruption, the correct process is to make a report with the MACC, saying that the Commission must carry out its tasks without any disturbance or restriction at any level. Earlier, the media reported that MACC Deputy Chief Commissioner Operations, Datuk Sri Ahmad Kusairi Yahya, as saying that the influx of illegal immigrants, workers and students into the country is seen as a major opportunity for a handful of enforcement officers who have no integrity to take bribes. The Domestic Trade and Cost of Living Ministry, KPDN, is expanding the retail sector digitisation initiative through the provision of 20 ringgit e-wallet incentive to the first 6,000 consumers or traders at the Rahmah Ramadan Bazaars in Kuala Lumpur throughout the month of Ramadan. Its Deputy Minister Fuzia Saleh said they have allocated 2 million ringgit for the incentive as an approach to encourage consumers and traders to conduct digital transactions at bazaars throughout the country, including Kuala Lumpur. She added that there are 2 other bazaars in the capital at Lorong Tunku Abdul Rahman Parking Lot 4 and at Jalan Raja involving 41 traders. The Deputy Minister noted that the criteria for a Rahmah Ramadan Bazaar is that 30% of traders are ready to sell Rahmah menus, but in Kuala Lumpur, 100% of food trucks are selling Rahmah menus. Meanwhile, Fuzia said that the Ministry Enforcement Unit has conducted price checks on 6,550 premises, including 983 Ramadan Bazaars order or pantau as of Monday. She said the ministry received complaints about prices, but its enforcement personnel have carried out their duties since the first day of Ramadan. The Malaysian Highway Authority LLM will work with highway concessionaires to ensure the smooth implementation of the open toll payment system. In a statement issued today, LLM said the implementation of the system would take into account the entire government environment of the existing toll system. It said the implementation of the open toll payment system is also an early initiative for the transition towards the multi-lane fast flow MLFF system that is being actively worked on at the moment. The Highway Authority added that this is the right step in the government's efforts to provide options and facilities to users for the purpose of paying tolls on the highway. LLM hoped that highway users will give their commitment and continuous support to improving the operation of tolled highways, as it always welcomes views from users. Bank Negara Malaysia's BNM total assets increased to 619.04 billion ringgit as at 31st December last year, compared with 551.61 billion ringgit the year before, with 503.33 billion ringgit of international reserves portfolio constituting the bulk, or about 81% of the assets. In its annual report 2022 released today, BNM said its liabilities arise mainly from deposits by financial institutions and currency in circulation. In 2022, the central bank generated a total income of 8.51 billion ringgit, net of costs associated with managing the international reserves portfolio and conducting monetary operations. Against this, BNM incurs expenses to manage and administer its operations and expenses to finance developmental and long-term projects in line with its principal objects and functions. As the global economy is expected to remain challenging, BNM said it is imperative for the bank to continue to strengthen its risk reserve and thus build buffers against future financial market volatility and economic shocks. National car manufacturer Proton Holdings Berhad has confirmed the official name of its first new energy vehicle, NEV, the Proton X90. Proton Chief Executive Officer CEO Dr. Lee Chun-rong said the introduction of Proton X90 comes during Proton's 40th anniversary, and it marks the introduction of more new NEV models in the future. The Proton X90 is the company's third sports utility vehicle SUV model after the Proton X70 and Proton X50, and is developed to cater for the premium, modern and family segments. The new SUV, which comes with 4 variants, standard, executive, premium and flagship, is available in 6 colors: snow white, armor silver, jet grey, cinnamon brown, ruby red and marine blue. It offers space and versatility with not only a 7-seater configuration, but is also available as a 6-seater featuring individual chairs for the second row. The Proton chief said the price of the X90 would be announced during an official launch, which is expected to take place soon. Nashville police seeks motive behind murderous rampage. That and more coming up right after this. The offspring of Indonesia's infamous Krakatoa volcano erupted several times in the last 24 hours, sending a huge volcanic ash tower some 2,500 meters into the sky. Mount Anak Krakatoa, which means Child of Krakatoa, erupted 4 times, officials said, with the biggest followed by another that sent a column of smoke and ash 1,500 meters above its crater. An official from Indonesia's Center of Volcanology and Geological Hazard Mitigation, Oktori Prambada, said this is part of an eruption phase associated with the formation of a new body for the volcano. There were no immediate reports of injuries or of damage on Tuesday. Prambada said the volcano's alert status remained at the second highest level after the series of eruptions, with authorities imposing an exclusion zone of 5 kilometers around the crater. Anak Krakatoa, which sits in a strait that separates the island of Java and Sumatra, has been sporadically active since it emerged from the sea at the beginning of last century in the caldera formed after the 1883 eruption of Mount Krakatoa. That disaster was one of the deadliest and most destructive in history, with an estimated of 35,000 people killed. Pakistan's Human Rights Commission rebuked feuding political parties for undermining democracy as the world's 5th most populous country battles an economic crisis. The fragile coalition government led by Shehbaz Sharif has been facing increasing pressure from opposition leader Imran Khan, Pakistan's most popular politician, ahead of elections due by October. Khan dissolved the 2 local parliaments he controlled at the start of the year in a bid to disrupt Sharif's government. Under the constitution, elections must be held within 90 days, a deadline just a few weeks away. However, the Election Commission refused to set a date after the military said it was unable to ensure security. The date of the elections are now tied up in legal wrangling. Pakistan is also in the grip of a dire balance of payments crisis that has forced the government to implement strict financial measures in a bid to revive a stalled International Monetary Foundation bailout program. The measures have seen the rupee plummet and inflation soar, and the crisis has left families struggling to afford basic food items and fuel. Caretaker governments, which are severely limited in their day-to-day operations, are in place in the 2 dissolved parliaments of Khyber Pakhtunkhwa and Punjab. Peace returned to the streets of the French capital Paris following a day of confrontations between protesters and police on the fringes of a march against President Emmanuel Macron and his deeply unpopular pension bill. Clashes also erupted at similar rallies in other cities, including Rennes, Bordeaux and Toulouse, with a bank branch and cars set ablaze in Nantes. However, while public frustration has evolved into broader anti-Macron sentiment, there was less violence than last week and rallies were otherwise largely peaceful. Earlier in the day, yesterday, the government rejected unions' demand to suspend and rethink the pension bill, which raises retirement age by 2 years to 64, infuriating Labour leaders who said the government must find a way out of the crisis. The government said it was more than willing to talk to unions, but on other topics, and repeated it would stand firm on pensions. The Interior Ministry said 740,000 people had protested across the country yesterday, well below the record 1.09 million seen at the 23rd March rally. The numbers in Paris were also below last week's record, but higher or equal to earlier demonstrations since January. Nashville police worked to pin down a motive behind a murderous rampage that saw 3 elementary school pupils and 3 staff shot dead by a heavily armed former student in a carefully planned and executed assault. The shooter, Audrey Hale, who was killed by police, had prepared maps detailing surveillance and entry points at the school, and also left a written manifesto that suggested further attacks at other locations were planned. Police said at least 2 of the weapons were purchased legally, adding that Hale had multiple rounds of ammunition and was prepared for confrontation with law enforcement. Body cam footage released showed police making their way and multiple gunshots were heard as officers advanced to a sun-filled atrium upstairs where the shooter was shot dead. Police later found material in the car that Hale drove to the scene. President Joe Biden, meanwhile, described the latest shooting as sick and said gun violence was ripping the soul of this nation, as he urged Congress to pass a ban on the assault weapons often used in mass shootings. Biden's calls for Congress to reinstate the national ban on assault rifles, which existed from 1994 to 2004, have run up against opposition from Republicans who are staunch defenders of the constitutional right to bear arms. According to the Gun Violence Archive, there have been 129 mass shootings in which 4 or more people were shot or killed so far this year. Next in sports, Harimau Malaya closes friendly series in style. Malaysia closed this month's FIFA international window in style after defeating Hong Kong 2-0 in a Tier 1 international friendly at Sultan Ibrahim Stadium in Iskandar Putri last night. It was the second victory for Harimau Malaya under coach Kim Pan-gon in the FIFA international match window from March 20th to 28th after beating Turkmenistan 1-0 at the same venue last Thursday.
Harimau Malaya sekali lagi keluar dari sangkarnya.
Pan-gon made 4 changes to the starting lineup tonight when he dropped Shahrul Muhammad Saad and Quentin Cheng in defence while risking Noah Lane and Muhammad Nur Azam Abdul Aziz in midfield. In the match attended by 4,593 spectators, the national team started slowly, but in the 18th minute, Hong Kong got a shock when Muhammad Faisal Abdul Halim managed to grab loose ball and pass it to a calm Muhammad Akyar Abdul Rashid to score the team's opening goal. The national team's second goal came in the 41st minute through a move by Ahmad Shihan's long pass that was intercepted by Darren Loke before passing the ball to Muhammad Faisal, who dribbled the opponent's defender before unleashing a strong shot with his left foot. Hong Kong's best chance to score its first goal came 6 minutes later after substitute Philip Chun, who received a lovely pass from Lau Zichun, failed to fire a shot straight at goal. For the record, last night's success saw Pan-gon's men record their second consecutive win against Hong Kong after also recording a 2-0 victory in the Tier 1 international friendly action at the National Stadium in Bukit Jalil June last year.
Dari tiupan whistle penamat dari Mongkol Chai Pechiri.
The Super League champions of this season will receive 2.4 million ringgit in prize money through the 2023 to 2025 merit-based income distribution system introduced by the Malaysian Football League (MFL). The new system also allowed the top 6 clubs, excluding the champions, to collect more than 1 million ringgit, while the bottom teams still carry a winning prize amounting to 600,000 ringgit compared to only 250,000 ringgit last season. The rate of income distribution to all 14 clubs competing this season saw an increase of 96.55%, which is 15.675 million ringgit compared to 7.975 million ringgit distributed to the same 14 clubs in 2022. MFL Chief Executive Officer CEO Stuart Ramalingam said a total of 6.95 million ringgit will be distributed to each club based on their performance at the end of the season, while the champions and runners-up of the MFL Cup will receive 500,000 ringgit and 250,000 ringgit respectively. For the record, following the impact of the COVID-19 pandemic, the distribution of income for the 2021 and 2022 seasons is based on 2 areas. The first being the equal distribution of 500,000 ringgit and 250,000 ringgit respectively to each Super League and Premier League club. The second principle is that only clubs that finish in the top 3 of the Super League and Premier League will earn additional prize money. There is no guarantee that any player who played in the 2022 Asia Cup Indoor Hockey Championship squad will be retained for the Southeast Asian SEA Games in Cambodia this May. National Indoor Hockey Squad head coach Muhammad Hanif Cik Halim said the 12 spots in the biennial games were still open and he would only choose those who gave 100% commitment to the team. He said the selection would only be made after the squad in the existing training camp underwent several friendly matches in Australia from 9th to 19th April.
Tempat semua terbuka. Okey, sekarang ni skuad 15 semua terbuka. Sebab yang kita tarik masuk pun semua yang begitu strong, skill-skill yang begitu strong. Jadi semua terbuka, balik daripada tour baru kita kecilkan kepada 12. Itu yang betul-betul 100%.
Muhammad Hanif said this during the Chef de Mission Datuk Muhammad Nasir Ali visit to the squad's training session at the Sentul Urban Transformation Centre last night. Muhammad Hanif, who was previously in the national hockey squad in the 2019 Philippines SEA Games 2019, also said that 8 2022 Asia Cup Indoor Hockey Championship players were in the SEA Games training camp. In August last year, the national men's indoor hockey team created history when they beat defending champions Iran 3-2 in the penalty shootout in the finals in Bangkok, Thailand. On to international sports news. Former Chelsea manager Thomas Tuchel began his new job as Bayern Munich coach on Tuesday, 4 days after the German champions parted ways with Julian Nagelsmann. Tuchel will be tested as Bayern face leaders Borussia Dortmund next week in the Bundesliga and Manchester City in this season's Champions League quarterfinals on 11th April. Nagelsmann's successor Tuchel, who had been a long-time Bayern target since their first attempt to sign him in 2018, has penned a deal to 2025. Tuchel won the Champions League for Chelsea in 2021 after replacing Frank Lampard, but has been without a job since being sacked by the English side last year. He built a reputation as a forward-thinking tactician in the Bundesliga during his time at Mainz 05 before taking over at Dortmund and leading them to German Cup success in 2017. A perfectionist and master tactician, Tuchel is equally known for his, at times, difficult relationships with club bosses, including at Dortmund and Chelsea. Indian Wells champion Carlos Alcaraz stayed on course to complete the Sunshine Double with straight-set wins at the Miami Open on Tuesday. Spain's world number 1 deployed his dynamic game to tame Tommy Paul 6-4, 6-4, and set up a quarterfinal with another American, Taylor Fritz, who eased past Denmark's Holger Rune 6-3, 6-4 earlier in the day. Alcaraz showcased his sensational speed and reflexes to reach a drop shot for love 30 and broke Paul 2 points later for a 3-2 advantage. Paul held strong, but Alcaraz unleashed a perfectly distinguished drop shot of his own that Paul could not chase down to claim the first set. Paul fell behind an early break again in the second set on a missed forehand for 2-1. Paul, who came from behind to beat Alcaraz in their only previous meeting at last year's Rogers Cup, then fended off a match point while serving at 5-3. But there would be no escape from Alcaraz, the top-seeded teenager, letting out a mighty roar when Paul's forehand landed out of bounds to end the contest. Alcaraz is now 3 wins away from the Sunshine Double, something he needs to retain his world #1 ranking from Novak Djokovic.
6-4.
Meanwhile, a cool, confident Taylor Fritz earlier booked his ticket to a 5th straight quarter-final by beating fellow top 10 player Holger Rune. The American 9th seed pumped his racket in a subdued celebration after an unreturnable serve wrapped up victory over the 7th-seeded Rune, who failed to convert 5 of his 6 break-points chances. Fritz is on the hunt for a second Masters 1000 title after winning Indian Wells last year and pounds on a break-point chance in the penultimate game of the opening set in front of a home crowd squarely on his side at Hard Rock Stadium. He made good use of that momentum and broke Rune in the opening game of the second set, where he upped his level, producing only 3 and 4 errors and winning 12 of his 15 first serve points. Rune, who was knocked out early at Indian Wells this month, was unable to set up a single breakpoint chance in the second set and produced 9 unforced errors.
6-3-6-4.
In another match, #2 seed Stefano Tsitsipas was sent packing by world #16 Karen Khachanov of Russia. It was a well-balanced match, with the first set coming down to a tie-break which Khachanov walked away with at 7-6. The Greek lost serve in the 5th game of the second set, the only break of the match, which ended 7-6, 6-4. At the grandstand, Italian 10th seed Jannik Sinner breezed past 6th-seeded Andrei Rublev, firing off more than 24 winners with very few mistakes to win 6-2 and 6-4. He next faces Emil Rusuvori after the Finn beat 26th seed Botic van der Zandschulp of the Netherlands 4-6, 6-4 and 7-5. And that ends today's updates at noon. Wrapping up with a reminder of our top stories: China's visit, an opportunity to explore various opportunities. And before we go, we would like to announce that beginning 1st of April, our evening bulletin will now be on air at 8:30 p.m. on saluran Berita RTM. Till then, I'm Renee Fong. Thanks for watching. Have a pleasant day.
Keputusan kita adalah untuk memberi kebebasan akademik. AUKU itu is a comprehensive legislation. Jadi bidang-bidang tentang set up universiti, undang itu semua tak ada masalah. Tapi beberapa peruntukan, 50, 60, saya tak ingat exactly peruntukan. Itu yang harus dihapuskan. Saya akan bagi jaminan semua peruntukan yang mengekang kebebasan, bukan saja kebebasan mahasiswa, kebebasan akademik, termasuk pensyarah-pensyarah, itu akan dihapuskan.
Jom sertai peraduan tonton dan menang drama bersiri Abang Muazzin.